Hey, what's up everyone? Pete the Guttural Monk here. I've got kind of a response video of sorts today. Yesterday on my lunch break I watched Scourge of Vinyl's top 20 albums that got me into death metal. And from what I understand, that was a response video in and of itself. But Scourge's video actually inspired me to make this one today. He and I are of a similar age bracket there, so a lot of the bands that kind of got him molded into his passion of death metal definitely affected me as well, although just a little bit earlier. If you're interested, I'd like to share with you guys the 20 albums that got me into death metal, and just for irony's sake, I'm going to play something that's totally not death metal in the background starting now. So let's just get things started. I was born in 1987. In 1994, I had my first taste of death metal, the same way that most of you guys around my age probably did. This is not part of the album thing, that's going to lead into my first album, but the way I was first exposed to death metal was Ace Ventura, the first Ace Ventura movie, with that famous scene with Cannibal Corpse. Totally caught my attention as a kid. Obviously at 7 years old, I wasn't running out and buying fucking, Cannibal Corpse albums, but I can remember watching that specific scene as a kid thinking, what the fuck is going on, and just being completely enthralled with it. So the first album that I'm going to put on my list of top 20 albums that got me into death metal is Hammer Smash Face by Cannibal Corpse. Still one of my favorite songs of all time. I've watched that scene countless times, and I just love the fact that Jim Carrey basically requested that Cannibal Corpse be in that movie. To me, that is just fucking amazing. So, Hammer Smash Face, Cannibal Corpse, number one. So, moving a couple years forward, it was the summer of 1999. I'm at a Chinese food buffet with my family on St. George Avenue in Linden, New Jersey. In front of this buffet, in the same parking lot, there was Izzy's Records. I used to go into Izzy's Records all the time. I've been collecting music since about that time, and I was obsessed with always seeing all the CDs. I've always loved the look of, spines in a CD store and fucking picture LPs hanging on the wall. Just cover art in general. Huge art nerd for stuff like that. Anyway, I walk in, again, summer of 1999, and there's a poster that instantly catches my eye and gets me hooked to no end. I need to find out what is on this. I need to find out what this sounds like. And that poster was promoting the album Maximum Violence by 6 Feet Under. Obviously, little did I know at the time that Chris Barnes was responsible for not only this, but my interest in death metal in general because of Cannibal Corpse a couple years earlier. I ended up buying the CD, obviously not then and there, but at the time, I was a big Napster guy. 1999, 2000, I was scum that downloaded music on Napster. I was a little fucking kid, go sue me. But because Napster was available, I was able to discover a ton of new bands that I would not have discovered anywhere else, basically. I'm not old enough to remember, tape trading or anything like that. I am old enough to remember buying magazines, looking through them, looking at pictures, reading articles, reading interviews, reading reviews, and being, kind of interested in bands. However, I am lucky enough to be part of even though it was the dial-up generation, the early internet, I was able to get a, not instant, but somewhat instant sample of what that music could sound like. So, I ran home, figured out 6 Feet Under, Maximum Violence, and I heard the song Hacked to Pieces. Hacked to Pieces to this day is still my favorite 6 Feet Under song of all time. I don't really like what this band became. I don't really even like this album. But that artwork, as a kid, completely captured me in my imagination as to what music could be. I knew right away this wasn't something that was going to be played on the radio, and I knew right away that this was something that I needed to hear. So again, 1999, I'm a fucking 12-year-old kid. 6 Feet Under, Maximum Violence is basically what set this ball into serious motion. Fast forward another year or so, 2000, 2001, I'm in a band. It's a metalcore band, hardcore. We are playing shows kind of often, but when we're not playing shows, we hang out at this place called The Cove. The Cove was this small, kind of dank little hangout. It's literally like it was a closet. It was a mini little storefront thing in Roselle, New Jersey on Chestnut Street. And bands used to play there every, I think, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. It would always be kind of like a clusterfuck of different styles. I can't recall at least like having a death metal night or having like a hardcore night. It was always like a death metal band here, a hardcore band there, etc., etc. I was there to see my friend Josh Green's band Pulse play, and I believe they played this show with Niche and if I'm not mistaken, the New Mexicans, and this band that I had never heard of before called Contortion. Unfortunately, Contortion, I don't have anything physical or that would be on this list. Members did go on to form Digested Flesh, but again, I'm not going to count that as this piece of influence. Contortion, I was lucky enough, in the grand scheme of things, to see live numerous times. They were straight up brutal death metal. My heart was completely ready to just tear into this. I'll never forget the lead singer, the first time I ever saw Contortion, had a long sleeve shirt on, and he had some writing on the side, and I didn't really know what it said, but the chest of the shirt was the most, to me, like, horrifying thing that I had ever seen, and it broke me into this next band. What he had on his chest was the cover of Purification Through Violence by Dying Fetus. I ran home, I fucking Napstered the shit out of this, and I was instantly obsessed. I think I heard Raped on the Altar, Skull Fucked, Kill Your Mother, Rape Your Dog, Blunt Force Trauma, and it took to me like a drug. The extremely low gutturals, the blazing fast double bass drum, sick tremolo guitars. I was hooked instantly. So my number 3 album that got me into death metal, Dying Fetus, Purification Through Violence. I still fucking love this album today. I don't care what anybody thinks about it, but huge influence to me. Now, it kind of took me a little bit of time to start purchasing death metal. I didn't have a death metal CD collection. I owned a lot of music at the time, but it's kind of stuff that I'll get into on like a later video. Again, metalcore, a little bit of hardcore, and lots and lots and lots of, you know, grunge and radio rock and shit like that. Again, I was, you know, 13 years old or so, but brewing this huge passion for death metal. The very first death metal CD that I ever bought was in 2001. I was at my Aunt Kat's house in, I don't even know where the fuck, New Jersey. I was with her for a weekend and I was painting bedrooms. That was like that was my thing one summer. I just had to, you know, I needed to stay busy. My fucking parents didn't want me in the house, so I was at my Aunt Kat's house painting a bedroom. I was gonna get paid, you know, some bullshit by the end of the weekend when I get picked up and whatever. We go out for lunch or something, there's a CD store, I'm dying to go check out what's what, and walk into a CD store and I see this. This is Bloodthirst from Cannibal Corpse. This is the very first, this actual CD is the very first death metal CD that I ever spent my own money on. And as far as influential albums go, this is certainly near the top. Again, Cannibal Corpse, Bloodthirst, this is the first death metal album that I ever spent my own money on. Fucking incredible masterpiece by Cannibal Corpse. Absolutely love it. Last one of the Napster era before I get started in what kind of just is a deluge of albums that happened to me during high school. I don't know why. I was trying to download something and I ended up, I think I asked for a recommendation, and a guy told me about this band from Sweden that I should check out, but they're a little kind of progressive and everything else. Little did I know that this band would eventually turn out to be, for a long stretch of my life, at least a third of my life, my favorite band. The song I downloaded was off of this album, from Morning Rise by Opeth, The Night and the Silent Water. Still to this day is one of my favorite songs of all time. I think it is an absolutely beautiful piece of progressive death metal. But what really kind of hit me hard with this album and made me appreciate what not only death metal but what extreme music could be was Michael's vocals and the way that he was able to just absolutely control his unbelievable harsh vocals and then sing in such a way that, you know, I swear, like, my mother would knock on my door and say, you know, what are you listening to? I cannot say enough good things about the first 4 Opeth albums, let alone the next couple, and I still like what they're doing today. So yeah, super influential. This is Opeth with Morning Rise. This is number 5 on my list. Next up, I was in a band, and I think it was like 2002, 2003 possibly. We were seeing a show, and it was supposed to be New Jersey Bloodline's last show ever. New Jersey Bloodline's fantastic, like, hardcore metalcore band out of my disgusting little section of New Jersey. This was going to be their farewell show. E-Town Concrete was on the bill, but it wasn't E-Town Concrete. They were billed as something else. December Eternalist, who was only known as December at that time, completely blew my mind. But again, that's not really death metal, or else I would have, you know, included December in this list. But a band that I did see that night that blew my mind equally and has stained me to this day was this band, Shattered Realm, and this was the era of All Will Suffer. All Will Suffer kind of treads the line a little bit of like a true definition of deathcore. Now, you can argue me death metal, deathcore all you want. Deathcore doesn't mean to me slams and like, you know, kind of having like a guttural vocal, but this has the attitude of hardcore blended with the instrumentation and just aggression of death metal. Chris's vocals on this album are super fucking awesome, super influential to me for my own personal vocal style. This is a short one, it's a 5-song EP, but I had to include it in this list because, again, to this day, this album stains me. This album comes with me everywhere I go. It's funny because basically every single album on this list is uploaded to my phone. I literally take these albums with me everywhere. That's why when Scourge of Vinyl was showing his top 20 video, I'm like, holy shit, man! Like, I can do this with my eyes closed because I basically have my death metal history tracked and it's with me everywhere I go. But anyway, Shattered Realm with All Will Suffer. Check that shit out. Next comes the onslaught of stuff. I'm in high school now. I'm discovering new bands left and right. I'm listening to the stuff that you would expect a high school kid around that time. I graduated in 2005, so anywhere between 2001 to 2005, I'm listening to Slayer, to Pantera. I'm fucking soaked in Black Sabbath every day. I'm getting high and listening to some crazy Israeli fucking Goa psy-trance. I was big into that kind of like electronic movement for a little while just because mushrooms were more fun when you're listening to that kind of stuff. But of course, I'm picking up death metal albums every single time I go to my favorite record store, Vintage Vinyl in Fords, New Jersey. And my buddy and I, we used to go there quite often, and honestly just blind buy. We'd go through the used bin and just buy cover art that really kind of caught our eye. And the amount of gems that I've picked up just because of doing that, the next 3 I'm going to show you are all blind buys at Vintage Vinyl. And you might hate me for a couple of them, but Immolation, Here and After. I never heard anything like Immolation. I picked it up because the cover art caught my attention instantly. It's still one of my favorite pieces of artwork that's ever donned a album cover in a death metal band before. But Immolation, Here and After, huge influence to me. I had no idea that death metal could be kind of written in that way and not follow formula like other bands that I had been used to hearing at that time. Absolutely still love that album, love Immolation to no end. This one, complete blind buy, and I actually have their first 2 albums, but I'm going to include this one because I listened to this one a little bit more at the time. This is Caducity, Whirler of Fate. This is an original Shiver Records press, and I shit you not, the day that I bought this, there must have been 4 or 5 of them in the used bin that day, and I said, that's a fucking cool cover art, looks like a fucking Punisher with like a sword above him and everything. I'm going to check these guys out. Caducity was from Belgium. This is some really fucking weird experimental death metal in a way that the vocalist almost tells a story. Every song is kind of dictated through, I think there's 3 different narratives, but I'm not going to dwell on this one. Caducity is one of my favorite obscure gems. I'm so lucky to own this and the William Wielder Quest, which is their first album. I'd love to do like a separate standalone video based just on Caducity because I could talk about them for fucking ever. Third blind buy that I'm going to get to, this is all Vintage Vinyl blind buys, again between 2002 and 2004, 2005 or so. Bought this because it looked fucking awesome, and it turns out that these guys were also from Jersey, and I was super proud of that when I found that out. This is Incantation with the Mortal Throne of Nazarene. This was my introduction to Incantation, not necessarily my favorite album, but I had to include what truly molded me in death metal in this list. It was up to me, Onward Towards Golgotha would be on this list, but Mortal Throne is totally what got me started with Incantation, and this was my introduction to Craig Pillard's vocals, and it was fucking horrifying. Love that album still, nonetheless. Incantation fucking rules. The next one here, this is one I have no idea how I came across this. I have no idea how it fell in my lap. I don't think it was any kind of like a download. This must have been like, I caught a glimpse of either a shirt at a show or something, because I've never seen this band live, regrettably. I am looking forward to new material though, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as impressive as the first 4 or 5 albums. This is Akerkaka with the Goat of Mendez. A Skin for Dancing In is the most evil death metal song that I can think of. The song legitimately terrifies me. The Horns of Baphomet, the song that it's track 4. Yeah, man, something about that shrill, high-pitched horn, and all the, obviously, the demonic and satanic overtones that this album has, really fucked me up as a kid, but I kept listening to it, and super influential stuff for me. So yeah, Goat of Mendez. Next up is a band that Scourge also mentioned in his video, but I'm gonna tell it like it is. I didn't get into these guys with None So Vile. I didn't get into these guys with Blasphemy Made Flesh. I got into these guys with And Then You'll Beg. And listening to this and Whisper Supremacy now, I don't like this even close to the amount that I love the first 2 full lengths and EP. And to be completely honest with you, the first time that I heard Lord Worm, I wasn't a fan at all. But And Then You'll Beg got me into Cryptopsy. I was lucky enough to see Cryptopsy in 2006 in Copenhagen, Denmark. Fucking random. Walking down the street, see a poster for a show. I'm with my buddy. We're there for fucking whatever it was, 14 days or 15 days or some shit. Just graduated high school, said fucking Cryptopsy's here with Aborted, Visceral Disgorge. Oh God, I hope that's right. And Visania. Visania was like a ex-member of Behemoth in like a symphonic kind of like black metal band. But see the poster. We have to check this show out. As soon as I found out it was a Lord Worm and it was like the original vocalist, I was super happy about it. And now, I mean, to me, None So Vile and Blasphemy Made Flesh are just an ungentle exclamation. Are some of the best death metal albums ever recorded. Not necessarily taking away from this, but this just has like a different feel, but still a place in my heart. Super influential to me. DeSalvo's vocals, I can't take anything away from, because I mean, he just fucking barks at you for the duration of those albums. So he's got that. Monier still sounds good. Everything's kind of just, it's the same but different. I don't know what to tell you. Hold on. Alright. Next up. Fucking another super influential album to me, again, on my vocal deliverance personally. I've been in bands my entire life, and you'll hear it on the newest Apocryphix album that I should be working on right now, but I'm not. I'm using a lot of Origin influence in my songs and or in my vocal deliverance. So the self-titled Origin album, specifically "Vomit You Out," is the song that completely resonated with me on this album. The way that he was able to just completely bark and vomit that song out, I don't know how it was possible. It's such an unbelievable stream of aggressive vocals coming out of this dude. But yeah, Origin, self-titled, super influential album to me. It's molded a lot of my passion of death metal, just because Origin was the fucking fastest and craziest and like just extreme of the death metal bands that I was into, like heavy, right around the time of graduating high school or so. Another one right around that time, this kind of introduced me to much more of a technical style of death metal, and I had no idea that that guitar work like this was able to be performed at such a speed. But Epitaph from Necrophagist, absolutely mind-blowing stuff to me at the time. Still a fucking unbelievable album. Again, influential stuff to no end. If you don't know this one, then I just don't know why you're even here still. It's been 20 minutes or so. Next up, another one that got a ton of time in my portable CD player while I was still in high school, but mainly the song Crystal Mountain. This is Death with Symbolic. Death had to be included on this list. This was the album that truly got me into Death. Now, if you had to ask me right now what my favorite Death album was, it'd probably be Human. But yeah, Death, Symbolic. This is the album that molded me in the direction of Death and progressive death metal that necessarily wasn't Opeth. So I'll just leave that at that. Surprisingly enough, this is the only overlap on my video and Scourge's video. And as he said, this is also my favorite album from Nile. This is Annihilation of the Wicked. I can't tell you how many times I've spun this. I can't tell you how many fucking vacations and road trips this album went on. You can see the wear and tear on this one. But this album is Nile at their absolute best. I'm not going to name the songs because Scourge already did. but I mean, everything on this album, I mean, start to finish, is near perfect. And yeah, Annihilation of the Wicked, unbelievably influential album towards me. Next up was this is like a side note, this was the first album that I ever ordered off the internet. So this is the first mail order, or album that showed up to my doorstep that I ever did. It is Bloodbath with Breeding Death. I found out that this was Michael from Opeth in a more kind of old school and disgusting death metal band, and I jumped all over it completely blind. Had never heard it before, but yeah, short EP. Everything that Bloodbath has basically put out is pretty fucking awesome. They're undoubtedly a supergroup. Yeah, but Breeding Death, that album cover alone was enough to get me hooked, and its short runtime and just unbelievably awesome delivery of old school death metal kind of opened a can of worms to me, but I'll get into that in a little bit with another band. Another band that overlaps with mine and Scourge's list, but definitely a different album. This is Demigod from Behemoth. This is the first album that I ever heard and bought from them. It's super well written. It's unbelievably well produced, to the point that it's kind of overproduced listening to it now. However, this album went through hell with me. I've listened to this album more times than I could possibly count. Absolutely fucking love this stuff. Again, not necessarily my favorite from Behemoth. This is what got me started with these guys. The first album that I ever picked up from Cattle D was To Serve Man. Title track did it for me. That's what got me hooked. And again, this just kind of snowballed into, I had to collect everything that these guys did. Travis Ryan's vocals are, I don't even need to fucking tell you guys, but they are some of the most amazing vocal work that I've at least ever heard. His gutturals are, super, just, they're fantastic. Can never do it justice. Cow Decapitation, To Serve Man, can't say enough. Fast forwarding a little bit, I had to include this band just because I got into them late. I didn't really know of their material at all. I would say I've been into this band for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I'm 30 now. I moved out of my last apartment when I was 25-ish, so 23, 24, so 6, 7 years or so. But this album this was it for me. Mental Funeral, when I discovered this by Autopsy, was the catalyst to get me to completely hit the rewind button for years, and I'm not exaggerating, years of going back and completely immersing my daily life in late 80s, early 90s death metal from all over the world. It's this album's fault. Basically, until I started making YouTube videos 2 years ago or so, I wasn't buying as many new releases. I wasn't really collecting, as actively as I am now. I mean, of course I was, but not to the insane extent that I have been for the last 2 years or so. But these guys have made me completely appreciate what some early bands did, and if it wasn't for stumbling across this album and just giving it the time of day, I don't know if I'd still have the undying passion for death metal that I have as a 30-year-old dude. And it's Autopsy's fault. Mental Funeral, this is a timeless album. I listened to Severed Survival after listening to this one for the first time, so its nod goes to Mental Funeral. I love it. It's a fucking masterpiece. And I could go on and on and on and on about fucking 20, 30, 50 more influential death metal albums to me. But I wanted to hit fast forward it again, and I wanted to kind of give nod and give a mention to like a more like recent band. Speaking of a band that kind of like maintains this passion and this fire about death metal. This is their first album. They've put out 2 other incredible full lengths since then, but number 20 on the list of influential death metal albums is, I had to pick something a little bit more recent, something that anyone new to death metal can kind of sink their teeth into and kind of get a feel of the mix that I'm going for. A little bit heavier on the old school end of things, but The Chills by Horrendous. This album, again, for for after I was, you know, enthralled with old school death metal, and in my mid-20s, hearing something like this just fucking pushed it forward. And if you watch my videos, you guys obviously know that in every one there's at least one old school death metal band that I mention and praise, and you know, I am obsessed with reissues. Another reason why I felt it was important to make this video. Yeah, it's all this is something that's kind of just grouping everything together. So Horrendous with the Chills, they're coming in at number 20 on my my influential death metal albums. I tried to go in chronological order. I didn't rate these or anything like that. It's not like Hammer Smash Face is my number 1 and fucking Horrendous is number 20. That's chronological order. I thought I was clear enough in explaining that, but yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you guys for subscribing. I hope you guys appreciated this video. I'd love to do one on black metal and, you know, fucking doom metal, but we'll see. I'm not starting any kind of tag here. But yeah, talk to you later. Cheers.